lesson 2 is about working in the proper season. I love the biblical interpretation of that. And as TC says, as business owners, we have a tremendous amount of flexibility, but that comes with tremendous responsibility. And TC and I were talking about this a little bit. Sometimes when I work with companies, I've worked with well over 1,500 companies to help them start and grow. And what I find often happens is that business owners, entrepreneurs, they procrastinate.
Yes.
And that procrastination is typically based on fear. And as we can start to blend our biblical beliefs with our strategic business practices, the fear starts to vanish, frankly, because we've got God on our side. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. So we know that business owners procrastinate, but the reality is we have to take action. And last week, TC, we talked about planning. Now you're on a vacation. So tell us about, how you get through that fear into that planning.
Well, I love that, Donna. You're right. It's because of fear. And a lot of times we are afraid because we don't know what to do, right? And so when you create a plan, you know what to do and when to do it. And so this particular trip is just a quick trip, and I like to call it a workcation because I have planned time. Yes, time out.
What was that phrase?
Workation.
Love
workation. I love it. So as I tell you about my workation, I've planned time to play. I've planned time to tour, and I've also created space to work because there are projects that I have to get done. And so just like the analogy in the Bible and in the lesson about the ant knowing what to do and when to do it and doing that, right, and not procrastinating, I'm not procrastinating because I've built in time for everything. There is no fear that I'm going to miss out, right, because I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And there's no rush. I don't feel anxious or rushed because, again, I've laid it out. So now some people take vacations. So here's the other thing. The beauty about having your own business, running a business, is that you can create work in your life around what works for you. Now, I have some friends and they don't like the idea of mixing any work with vacation. And so that's perfectly fine if that's not how you choose to spend your time. I love the work that I'm doing. It's internet based. I can do much of it on my phone, but I don't want to work all the time, nor can I, right? When I'm walking through glaciers and on black sand beaches, right? So I have to have time to do both.
Absolutely. And that really leads us to the other point I'd like to make before we open up the conversation to everyone who is here on the Blab. It's really about sustainability. And what I find, and I know for me, I've been doing this a long time, I would venture to say that in my first 5 to 7 years of owning a business, every time I took a vacation or I took a break, I got sick because I was going so hard that when my body finally had the opportunity to slow down, it said, okay, that's it, Donna, game over. So I think it's really about creating the balance that leads to sustainability. Last week we talked about planning, and, as we go through the book and the 52 lessons, I too am filling out the SMART goals form that you gave us. And so I've been doing this for a while, but I'm doing it much more mindfully now. On Sunday nights, I plan my week. I put everything on my calendar. We talked about that last week as well. So the reality is it's about creating the mix that works for you and what's going to be sustainable. And what I know is true for me is if I don't take breaks, I am far less productive. Mm-hmm. People think that's, counter, but the reality is it's about balance. So I think it's amazing. And it's another great example of God's timing that lesson number 2 is work in the proper season. You happen to be in Iceland, and I worked all weekend, which is fine because next weekend I'll be on a beach in Cabo. That's how we live. That's how we create our sustainability. And I think also when we do that, we really model good behavior for other people. But ultimately, that's what it's about. We're here to serve the kingdom. We're here to spread the word through our work. And if you've read TC's book, 52 Lessons for Christianpreneurs, you will notice one of my favorite things about the book is what I like to refer to as simple genius, in that she capitalizes the word work.
Yes.
And I really believe that in and of itself summarizes exactly how I see my business and my entrepreneurship.